Goodness me, it's grim out here at the moment. It's 4:30, it's December here in the UK. It's been a horrible day today, but, enter a different world. The bunker. Normally a bad thing for golfers, but in this case, it is a wonderful antidote to winter golf. Two side-by-side state-of-the-art golf simulators here in the bunker. Lovely indoor area for winter golf. We are here courtesy of Marton Meadows Golf Complex. It's in the northwest of England, it's in Cheshire, and halfway between Macclesfield and Congleton. And we have a room here which they call the bunker. We spend all of our time as golfers avoiding bunkers, but this is actually a good bunker because it gets us out of the horrible weather that we have here in December in the UK. And it gives me an opportunity to talk a little bit about practice and some interesting things that I learned from watching a video recently. It was one of the TED videos, actually TED Ed, not one of the traditional TED Talks, but a short sort of 5 or 6 minute instructional video, so to speak, around how practice works. And they've done some really interesting research around this. Now, you're probably familiar with the concept that practice makes perfect, but actually in truth, practice makes permanent. So if you're practicing the wrong thing, you'll simply ingrain a habit, which then becomes really, really hard to get rid of. So it's very much about the quality of the practice, not necessarily the quantity of it. But there's also another phrase which we often associate with practice, and that's muscle memory. So athletes will often talk about muscle memory, through repetition of a movement, they're building what they call muscle memory. But according to this video, there isn't really any such thing as muscle memory because muscles don't have memory. But they believe, through all sorts of research, through neuroscience, that something happens with repetitions, with these reps, to actually help athletic performance. And the simplest way of describing it is like an electrical wire that gets insulation. So through repeating the movement over and over again, you actually build up a layer of insulation around the wire. And the wire is sort of the nerve fiber in the body, or the neural pathways through which signals from the brain are then sent to the muscles of the body. So the more repetitions you do, the more insulation you build up around these neural pathways like an electrical wire, so less energy leaks out. In other words, it stops those leakages of what needs to get through to the muscles of the body to actually perform the movement. So in that sense, practice does help the physical performance in some kind of athletic pursuit like golf. And some other things I learned in this TED video were to do with specific practice techniques to make sure that your practice time is actually productive. It's helping you get better with whatever athletic movement you're practicing, in this case golf. So I could decide that I'm going to really go on the range, I'm going to hit 500 balls, I'm going to stay out there till dark until I've sorted this thing out. But the trouble with that is you'll get tired. You'll probably get tired after maybe 75 or 100 balls. Your swing will start to deteriorate. You won't hit the ball quite as well after a while. And then everything sort of gets worse and you think, well, you thought you'd sorted it out and now it's sort of gone again, and you get a little bit depressed and think, well, God, this game's really difficult. Now, elite athletes tend not to fall into this trap. A little bit like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym for 2, 3, 4 hours at a time. You go for maybe 45 minutes or an hour and then have a break. And then maybe come back in a couple of days' time and do another 45 minutes or an hour. So it's little and often is better, as in so many walks of life, rather than belting 1,000 balls in one go and just getting tired. So focused bursts of quality practice with gaps, much better than staying out there all day. A second tip that I took from the TED video was that when you're working on maybe a better backswing movement, or you're working on the rhythm of your swing overall, then practice it in slow motion first of all. You're more able to control the quality of the movement. You're more aware of where you're moving everything. When you do it in slow motion, gradually build up the speed so that when you've done that a few times, you then execute the shot at normal pace. And then hopefully the move that you've been trying to develop has been, ingrained to some extent in the actual shot that you hit. And you see Justin Thomas doing this sometimes when he's rehearsing his backswing. He's sort of more able to control that, and then he'll execute the shot. One of the things that I've been working on in a previous video is to try and get the club face approaching the ball more at this angle, facing more down to the ground, because I tend to get it a little bit open here, so the back of my left wrist is facing up rather than more vertical, so therefore the club face is facing more down to the ground. So I'll practice this in slow motion here, feeling that club face looking at the ball on the way down. And then hopefully that was a better strike and a bit of a lower ball flight, which probably does indicate that I've got in that position successfully in the actual swing as opposed to being here. Now, tip number 3 in the TED video actually doesn't require any physical performance at all. It's more of an anecdote in a way. It was an experiment that was done in the States with 144 basketball players, a mixture of intermediate and advanced level basketball players. They split them into 2 groups. One group practiced the free throw, where there's a penalty and they throw, hopefully getting in the basket. One-armed free throws. They practiced that for 2 weeks. And then the second group had to imagine doing the free throw practice. They actually had to visualize it in their mind. There was no physical activity at all. They just played it as a movie in their mind over and over again. It must have been very boring for them. But after 2 weeks, they then measured the results of the performance, because they then had to all practice physically scoring, the free throw with a one-arm free throw. And interestingly, the level of performance was almost identical across the 2 groups, both the intermediate players and the advanced players. So just simply by rehearsing what you're trying to achieve in your mind, for some strange reason, that helps transfer into a better physical performance. And I think this underlines the importance of visualization. You'll see players on the tour, they're visualizing where they want the ball to go. You see rugby players doing this before they take a penalty kick. You see footballers do it before they're taking a penalty kick. They're recreating in their mind what they want to do in actuality. And there was a famous sort of business or personal development book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And he did say that all things are created twice. So in other words, you create the thing in your head first. In theory, you're playing that movie in your mind, and then you create it in reality. A little bit like architects do, I guess. They create the building on paper first, and then they build the actual thing in reality. And the final tip is actually one of my own. It's something that we used to do as kids over and over again, and it's to recreate some pressure in practice, because practice normally has no pressure because there are no consequences for hitting a bad shot. So in that sense, it's not a very good preparation for actual play on the golf course, because you're not practicing being under pressure and performing under pressure. So what we used to do as kids, we would stand over a putt and we'd say, right, this for the Open Championship, 5 feet. I need to get it in. The cameras are on. Everyone's watching. This is to change my life forever. Or we might say that, I'm going to hold 20 4-foot putts in a row, and until I do, I'm not going home. So those are just a few tips. And again, a big thanks to Marton Meadows for allowing me to film this in their beautiful indoor studio. And as always with our YouTube channel, if you've enjoyed watching this, do subscribe. There'll be more from Marton Meadows in the coming days and weeks as we get through the winter. So more to follow, and in the meantime, practice with intent and with quality.